Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm asking the question, when is wrong right? When is the wrong thought process going to produce the right result? We've talked in the past about feel and real, and the problem that we have in a lot of cases, that especially with advanced students who have a good understanding of golf swing and sequence, is that they are determined to do it correctly, irrespective of what their body is doing. That means that they are making the same mistake over and over again by trying to make the golf swing the correct way, the way that it's described in the books. And I've had a lot of success recently in basically turning that on its head. What I'm talking about primarily is the sequence of events in a golf swing, especially from the top of the swing down. The feeling of hips and shoulders turning in front of arms, arms folding, dropping and following through, and everything going in this perfect sequence. What I'm actually seeing, however, is that when people are trying to do that, when my students are thinking about moving their hips and shoulders before their arms and hands, they're incapable of relaxing their arms and hands enough to allow them to drop onto plane, to allow the club to release correctly through the golf ball. And so what I've done is basically turned it on its head and says, well, why don't you just get the feeling? Again, we're just talking about feeling. The decision-making process up there is based on what you're feeling, and therefore maybe saying something to you that you're not actually doing. And what I've asked them to do is basically have the feeling of starting the swing by dropping their arms and not turning their bodies. What I found them doing then is that although their feeling is they are just dropping their arms, their bodies are turning anyway. And they're turning simply because the falling of the arms is releasing the shoulder rotation, allowing the shoulder rotation. To time then the rotation, I've actually been asking them to virtually wait until the moment of disaster when the club just goes straight into the ground, or at least the feeling of when that's about to happen, and only start the active turning of the body just before disaster strikes. Can you make disaster your friend? What this does is it basically gets their arms soft enough and relaxed enough to release especially the trail arm angles. I'm getting a lot of people dropping their upper arm but holding their lower arm. I'm getting others which are dropping their arm and holding their wrist. Very few which are really just letting it go, simply because of the unconscious fear of hitting into the ground. Now, we all know that if you turn in the correct moment, then you won't be able to hit into the ground, irrespective of how freely you release the golf club. But that's the reason why we've been telling you the whole time of getting the rotation going before your arms come down. But the fact is that a lot of you out there are not letting your arms release adequately simply because they are stiffening up and getting tense the moment that you become active with your body. It's almost as if your arms are reacting to the movement in your body, and rather than relaxing and falling out of the sky as they should do, they are basically tensing and being pulled around by your body turn, which either brings them from outside and far too steep on the ball, or stops you getting a decent contact on the golf ball altogether. Now, obviously this isn't going to work for everyone, and if you're somebody who's been working on the move, on this transition, who has got it all going on, is keeping the club on plane behind you, then please do not try and do this. However, for the rest of you out there who seem to be struggling by trying to do the right thing, well, why not try and do the wrong thing? If for no other reason, to get that feeling of what is it like if I just let the arms drop? If you do that, then obviously you're going to hit it into the ground. But then just before you get into the ground, turn and really try and judge the moment and the timing of that turn. Try and judge the intensity of that turn until you get the feeling you can just pick it up, drop it, and turn at the very, very last minute. Now, that is most certainly not what we're doing when we're making a golf swing as professionals. We have got this feeling of our body working ahead of our arms. But you've got to remember that we all started as children, and a child has no strength in their arms. So when they're trying to accelerate a golf club, they're doing it with their body. And only as their arms become more powerful do the arms try and take control. But by that time, the body rotation and turn is so active and so drilled that the arms don't have a chance of getting ahead of the body. For an average amateur who started as an adult, you've started with strong arms and the need to hit and to guide the club back to the golf ball with your arms. And it might well be that when you start to think about turning your body, it's not having the effect that you think it should be having. On the contrary, getting an active body turn is just making your arms even less likely to drop the club on plane and release it through the golf ball. So you might have to work another way. Remember, it's not really a question of what you think you're doing, it's a question of what you're doing. So certainly if you're going to try this, try and get some video cameras set up so that you can actually see whether feel and reel are closer together when you do this. Remember that if you start to then get the club going into the ground, then you know that your rotation has come too late. But I've had astounding results with this, not only with full swings, also in the short game, just setting the club up in plane, letting the arms drop and getting the students to have the feeling that just before the club hits the ground, they turn actively through the golf ball and suddenly they start striking and timing the golf ball better than ever before. I know it's a strange one, but really sometimes you just got to think outside the box. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And a big thank you as ever to everybody who's become a patron to the site or to the channel. If you'd like to become a patron, support the channel, get me back here a bit more often, I shall leave a link below. And we will see you all very, very soon with the next one. Until then, goodbye.